Currently, whenever I'm scrolling through my social media or even talking to politically aware people, I think everyone everywhere is highly concerned about the current world state. And that is when I thought to travel back in time and recollect the lessons that history has been teaching us for so many years. Welcome to the second episode of Speak What Matters, where it's time to travel back and learn what war has taught us and where peace has come at a huge price. But first, we need to understand when these wars actually started. From the time there has been human civilization, there were small fights between smaller groups of people, be it for food or space. But it took a massive scale during the 3rd millennium BC, during the ancient history era. It was in the form of territorial expansion, resource extraction, slavery, which is in very simpler words is basically grabbing your land or resources by the people in power. When I looked into the data not so far back in time, like in 1800s, 37 million people died while actively fighting in wars. And mind it, the count does not include the civilians. We are currently in 2026, and unfortunately, these practices still continue, but in a more sophisticated manner. Now, the question is, did humans learn anything from these wars? Let's take an example of the two most important wars which shaped the geopolitics and also introduced the modern world order. Well, you guessed it right. It's World War I and World War II. Assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria had escalated into a war across Europe, which was called World War I or the Great War in 1914, which lasted until 1980. During this 4-year conflict, the countries who were involved, you can definitely look into different publications and get an idea, but I can just call them as the Allied powers and the Central Powers. Now, this was also referred to as the first modern world war because the world got to see a lot of new technologies which are now associated with the military, be it the machine guns, the tanks, the aerial combats, the radio communications, and again, there was a massive use of chemical weapons such as mustard gas and phosphine. Well, the reason why I'm looking into the data and telling you because I have done my fact check and I want to share the exact data. And if you want to do your fact check, there are books, there are information available in the internet. Please read through it. The war was caused by something called the main factors. M for militarism, A for alliances, I for imperialism, N for nationalism. So in a very simpler language, basically an influential person dies. And then instead of the involved parties resolving that issue, their friends join in further to escalate the issue rather than resolving. Well, that's the very simple reason I could think of while explaining World War I. Well, this war was required or not is up to historical debate. But definitely, it was not accidental. And it was caused by some decisions made by a group of few humans. Strangely, World War II also started, it was on September 1st, 1939. And why? Because there were unresolved issues from World War I, specifically the economic crisis of the Great Depression and the 1919 Treaty of Versailles that devastated Germany's economy, and morale, which fueled the rise of Adolf Hitler, who later, when came into power, demanded a territory, rearmed Germany, and invaded Poland, prompting Britain and France to declare war. The war ended on 1945, with an estimated 60 to 80 million people being died, including up to 55 million civilians, and numerous cities in Europe and Asia being destroyed. And never forget the consequences that it has caused from genocide and atomic bombs. Whether World War II was required or not is up to historical debate. But it could have been avoided by the thoughtful decisions if taken by the leadership during the end of World War I or even the earlier intervention of Western powers. And that's the power of wars, where common people lose their lives. Now it's time to focus on the lessons the world government should have learned. Not sure whether they have, but yes, ideally they should have learned. First is, let's say when two people are having conflicts, the alliances should help to resolve the issue rather than escalating it. Basically, the governments should work with the organizations like United Nations and ensure that they are encouraging open discussions across the two parties who are having conflicts and ensure there is conflict resolution happening and also impartial decisions being followed. Peace treaties should actually preach peace, irrespective of who wins or who loses. Because remember, that's how World War II has started. War should be avoided at any cost, but aggression should be addressed. Let's say there is a pain in your body and you do not cater to the pain, you do not visit the doctor for years, and later you find that you are left with few days to live. That's how aggression affects the society. So, any form of aggression should be addressed immediately, but the answer should not be war. It's very essential that the economy of a country is stabilized by the government because more the instability of the economy, more it fuels the extremism because that's what feed our minds. So it's time that the government takes some concrete actions in stabilizing the economy across the world. And lastly, countries should work together to establish global peace and not against each other. There are various ways to do that, either by treaty, by setting up organizations, by setting up communities which encourage inclusion, have proper law and order, and also international law, which is basically you're following proper measures within and across the borders. And if anything or anyone who breaks the law should be penalized at any cost. And that's how you bring law and order within the country and across the world. Well, I believe the lessons are already there in paper. But to put this into action, the governments have to work together with a right intention to make the society a better place. It's very simple to establish when you all work together. And I believe if somebody is watching and is having a right intention, they will definitely try to imply that into their community across the society. And now it's time to talk about the actions that we need to take as world citizens. Firstly, we need to read, make ourselves aware, educate ourselves, speak on forums, be it on social media, government events, community events, about things that matter, things that can change the society. And of course, the intention should not be spreading hate, but spreading awareness through right information. Secondly, educate children and make them aware of what they should and should not do. Because remember, you are creating the future of the society. What you sow today will reap tomorrow. Thirdly, stand up against all the wrongdoings that you see. Because when one common man raises their voice against anything wrong in the society, you are encouraging the entire community to speak up. So it's time to build a courageous society. Fourthly, choose good and thoughtful leaders who are better for the nation, better for the society, and not just your personal benefits. And fifthly, choose humanity over any power, any religion, any ethnicity. Prioritize empathy, dignity, and compassion for every person because we share a common human experience above any ideological or social division. Well, you might ask me that I'm talking about a very ideal world, but let me ask you, what is stopping you to think that you can't live in an ideal world? If something is stopping you, then it's time to take the right action and make the society a better place to live in. Well, I don't know what the future holds for us, but what I know is what we have in our hands to do the best for our society. And who knows, this collective power of common people may encourage the governments to take some collective actions to make the society a better place. And who knows, any form of war can be stopped as a whole in this world. Well, as humans, we can only hope and continue to do our actions because that's what will make the society a better place. Well, you might think why I made this whole episode on how wars have started and how it impacted our lives and what real actions we can take. Well, there are two ways of living. Either you complain or you take actions. I thought of sharing the actions that I could think of in this present scenario to handle the world crisis as a common person. Well, there are some actions also by the government who can take it. Whoever is watching this can definitely look into it. And with this, I come to the end of this episode, thinking that I could spread some useful information with you and hope to encourage you to make some real changes in the society through your actions. Because remember, the purpose of our show is to promote positivity and ensure you take the right decisions through educating yourself and being self-aware. So if you like my content, don't forget to subscribe my channel, Samadrita Talk Show. And if you want me to cover some more important topics, please drop in comments and I can definitely try to publish something on that as well. And keep shining bright and keep supporting us. Thank you.